What's going on YouTube? My name is Garrett and this is my new channel, Outdoor Adventures SMS. If you guys haven't been following me on social media, I've been documenting all of my outdoor adventures on the way to my 2021 Appalachian Trail thru hike. I love longboarding, rock climbing, but most importantly hiking and backpacking. If you guys want to check all of that out, go ahead and check out my Instagram, Outdoor Adventures SMS. Now today's video is about backpacking gear that I wish I never spent my money on. Now to be clear, there are a ton of YouTubers out there with way more miles under their belt than I have that have already made videos about the subject. But I didn't make it to their videos in time, and I ended up spending a bunch of money that I didn't really need to. If you're an experienced backpacker, you probably already know about some of these items. But if you're new to the game, I hope that I can save you a couple of bucks on your backpacking gear. Now with that being said, let's jump into my top 5 pieces of backpacking gear that I wish I never spent money on. The number 5 piece of gear is a hydration bladder. This thing looks like it could be super convenient, and honestly, it can be sometimes, but I'm done with it. So when I first started backpacking, it was my very first trip out, and I had a buddy with me who was hiking, and they had a hydration bladder. They were climbing up some hills, and they just were killing it. They made it up to the top in record time, and they had water the whole way. Meanwhile, I got to the top, and I was flailing around for my water bottle and gasping like a fish out of water. It was absolutely terrible, and it was even more humiliating when I needed to ask them to get the water bottle out of my backpack for me. At that moment, I decided that I was going to be a super cool hiker and buy a hydration bladder. But it's really not as convenient as it looks. First and foremost, the water coming out of the hose tastes like plastic. It's disgusting. Now maybe that's just my hydration bladder, but I know a ton of people who have reported the same problem. Second of all, like I said before, it's just not as convenient as it needs to be. You take the top and you open it up and it's really flimsy and you try to filter your water into it. It's messy, it gets all over the place and you waste water. And then you seal it all up and you have to basically stuff this giant water balloon back into your pack. It's already crowded enough in there as it is, and I just didn't need that getting in the way of my pack. So I ditched it almost immediately. Nowadays, I just keep a water bottle right on my strap. Number 4 is the infamous Sawyer Squeeze Mini. I bought this because I was looking to save some weight. It weighs in at only a scant 1.7 ounces, and it really seems like a no-brainer compared to its big brother, the Sawyer Squeeze, that weighs in at 3 ounces. But at the end of the day, that 1.3 ounces makes a big difference when it comes to flow rate. It clogged up on me after a couple times using it out on the trail. Get rid of it. It's not worth it. Get the Sawyer Squeeze, or maybe just skip straight to the Katadyn Be-Free filter. I haven't gotten one myself yet, but I've heard a lot of good reviews about it. Number 3 is the REI Stratus Sleeping Pad. I bought this as part of a backpacking bundle that came with a tent, sleeping bag, and sleeping pad. Now, to be clear, none of it is bad gear. In fact, I saved a ton of money on all of it, and it's all really great beginner's gear, if you don't mind carrying a little bit of the extra weight. The Stratus weighs in at 21 ounces, and because of that, I held on to it longer than I thought I should have, just because it wasn't really important on my weight-saving journey. I replaced my backpack, my tent, and my sleeping bag all before that. Although, I caved at the end when I just wasn't getting the good night's sleep that I needed on this pad. Now, my body is different than your body. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. What it's going to come down to is the design. If you are okay with the vertical baffles that this pad has, then you might like this. I've loaned this out to friends who have said they've gotten a great night's sleep on it. What this pad does well is keep you on the pad. There are baffles on the outside of it that keep you in the middle and keeps you from rolling off of it. But what that did for me was compress me down in the middle. Now I sleep in lots of crazy ways. I'm a back sleeper, a side sleeper, a stomach sleeper. You can find me upside down and in a tree if you look hard enough. And after all of that, it just wasn't comfortable. I would wake up in the morning with my mid-back and my shoulders hurting, and it was because of those vertical baffles. At the end of the day, I ditched this pad and got something with horizontal baffles. And if you're having that problem, you should think about that upgrade too. Number 2 is trekking poles. Now let's get it out of the way. I love trekking poles. I use a pair every time I go out on trail. Sure, you look a little bit like a dork when you use them, but I guarantee you, you're a dork with or without them. Trekking poles save your joints. If you've never used them, I highly recommend you jump on the bandwagon. What I'm talking about is the first pair of trekking poles that I ever bought. Now they're a twist lock style trekking pole, which means that they twist to open and twist to lock into place. Now this was all well and good at first, but after the first couple of days using them, a bunch of dirt got on them and they were hard to open, and then while I was hiking, they just slipped on me and they got shorter. And I had to stop what I was doing and open them back up and get them to the perfect height, and honestly, it was just really annoying. Now, it might not seem like a huge deal, but once you're out there on trail doing the same thing every day, it's those little things that add up. Eventually, I switched over to a flick lock style trekking pole, which, like the name implies, has a flick style lock that's going to open it up and lock it into place. And it's so much better for me. If you have the money to sink into a pair of flick lock poles, I recommend it. Number 1 is a first aid kit. Now, before you go running into the comments telling me that everybody needs to pack a first aid kit, I get it. I know you do. I keep a first aid kit on me. What I'm talking about is those big, bulky first aid kits that you find in stores. Now, I'm not a doctor, and maybe you disagree with me, but I really just don't think you need a splint and 6 feet in a roll of gauze to take out onto the trail with you. You really just need a small kit. Now, I ended up buying a little day hiker's kit, and it was a great place to start, but I ended up ditching some of the stuff in that kit, mostly the scissors and things like that. You really just don't need them. Now, I'm not going to get into what you should pack in your first aid kit because it's a really personal topic and everybody has different needs. And there's a ton of other backpackers out there who have made awesome videos on the subject, and I suggest you check them out. What I will say, though, is make sure you're packing smart. If you have special needs on trails, like allergies or diabetes or other things, make sure you're packing the medicines and tools you need for that. Hike smart and don't leave anything at home, and carry a competent but small first aid kit. Alright everybody, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope I saved you guys a couple of bucks. Let me know down in the comments what your worst gear purchase was. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and definitely check out my Instagram. Hike safe, hike smart, and don't forget to take your adventures outdoors. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Alright, that's a wrap.
I think that's it.
Alrighty, my feet hurt so much.